Hey, how's it going guys, DIZARO here, and today we're going to talk about digital games. Those little apps that you have on your mobile, tablet, PC, console, smartwatch, telly, toaster. You basically get them everywhere these days. Anyways, I mean those apps that constantly become an overnight addiction and drive you into thinking of it constantly. Have you ever thought of the digital game's origin? Well, digital games have their history blended with computer dissemination. Computer scientists began designing simple games that got popular in universities and later on were commercialized. Atari was the greatest name during the 70s, till the fair amount of poorly designed and repetitive games led the video games industry to the crash of '83. Afterwards, Nintendo and Sega came, did a solid job, introduced us to a bunch of games, characters and consoles that we know to this day. They introduced us to a concept of carrying those games, adventures and beloved characters with us, anywhere, in our pockets. And as technology developed, games developed, narratives developed, and experiences too. Today, we have more processing power in our cheapest mobile phone than the computer that sent men to the moon. So if you have an idea, drive and will, you can send someone to the moon, or different words, or your own word. Therefore, let's give you a few tips on how to do it. Think of your game. How do you want it to look like? Pixel, 3D, vector looking? Is it for mobile, PC, your preferred console? Does it have a storyline, characters, or is it just mechanics? Anyways, for a digital game, you have to make it digital, so you're probably going to have to code it, or at least know someone who does. You get the art assets done, get the story done, the music done. So when it comes to giving life to those assets and systems, that's when coding comes in handy. Obviously, you don't have to be a software engineer to make it work. There are things called engines that serves you as a development environment. There are multiple out there, paid, free, for 2D, for 3D only. But let's stick to my favorite one, shall we? Unity. Download it, install it, and let's get started. And to show you guys a whole game development example, I remake the NES game Duck Hunt. But this time, shall it be the Duck's Revenge? Also, I sort of like aliens, so the duck's gonna be an alien. That said, let's begin. After you start it, this thing will pop up. Then you can choose your recent projects. If you have known, it means you're new here. Then if you had something on your disk, it will appear there, or in the cloud, it means someone shared that project with you in the On Collab tab. You can check it out later on, I will teach you. But if you have none, click on new, and then this other window will appear. You're going to set up your project. You're going to choose between a template of either 2D, 3D, or these other ones that we're not going to talk about today. And in this case, you're going to go with 2D. You can choose the organization, which really helps if you have multiple projects. If you don't know how to set it up, just go here and choose manage, and it will redirect you to your dashboard. So let's name it the Duck Game, Duck, and you can choose your folder, your directory, then hit OK, and that's it. You never have any other doubts about the interface. Check this out. This is the game view. It shows you everything that the player will see when he or she loads up your game. Just like a film, it shows everything that's captured by the camera. In here, you can change the resolution aspect, so you can test how the game looks on each different device it's being played at. This is the hierarchy. In here you find absolutely everything that exists in your game. All the characters, the enemies, the villages, the game's HUD, the whole level is there. If it exists in your game, keep in mind that it's there somewhere. The project view serves you as a door between your computer and your game. It holds down all the assets, scripts, shaders, audio, animations, sprites, basically everything that can be used in hierarchy to give your game life. The scene view is the visual world in which your game takes place. It's a 3D environment that shows you how the objects in the hierarchy interact with one another. The inspector is a panel that shows every property and component that forms up a game object. These components and properties give them different characteristics that lead them into acting in different manners. These are really different one object from another. These are your main views. Love them, get used to them. They're friendly, you can move them around, dock them anywhere you like, close them. And if you ever feel like a bit lost or don't quite like the layouts Unity gave you, you can always find them under the Windows tab. You also have a bunch of shortcuts and you can save your layout presets. In Unity you can create different folders as we're doing here. We're going to create a new folder and call it Sprites. In the Sprites folder we're going to place all the sprites we've got. Once you imported your sprites into Unity, and you can do it by just dragging it from your computer into Unity, you click on it and the inspector will show you these informations here. All of this information you see here is related to how the sprite you just imported will be displayed and manipulated by the engine. If you're making a 2D game, just leave it as is. Sprite mode tells Unity if that image asset you just imported is a collection of images, such as a sprite sheet, or if it's a big nonsense PNG. Pixels per unit is the amount of pixels per unit, it's tricky to say, and the rest of it you can just skip. If you're working with only one image you're pretty much good to go, but if you have multiple, as in this case, hit the sprite editor button, a window will pop up and you can set the individual sprites in it. In here you can set the sprite sizes by selecting the area you want to work with. Just click and drag, it makes the selection. Once you create a selection, the naming properties of this selection will appear in the top down corner. It indicates the name, position in the X and Y axis of the asset you just loaded up, the width and height of the selection, the border's position in case you have one of these HUDs that you can resize without losing proportion, but I'll talk about it later. And you also have the pivot point, which indicates the point in which your selected sprite will rotate towards that. Though you don't have to do it on your own, Unity have a few slicing tools. Make sure you're in Sprite Editor. If you happen to have a well-distributed sprite sheet, you can select grid by cell size or grid by cell count. It's great for pixel art. But if it doesn't really matter to you, keep the automatic selected. You can set all the images pivot point at once with this and change them individually later on. The method option only determines how Unity will treat these sprites that you already sliced once you re-slice them. Just leave it as is. You can set the sprite shapes to be a polygon, that's great for tiles or any geometric thing that you're dealing with, and you can change it by outline with this tool here. It's great if you perhaps have a more detailed image. Well, before committing to anything, just make sure that any of these sprites you've just sliced are not overlapping. That's kind of a pain and you don't want to go back to the sprites once you're past this. Anyways, to make the changes you've done real, hit apply. Revert, well, it reverts them. Close this window and you go back to your default view. Well, if you liked this video and want to learn more about Unity, just tag along. You can try following my steps. I'll link all the assets I made in the description. Well, that's it. Like, share and subscribe because I see you guys next video.